a plan has been presented. Now, we had heard 7,000 different proposals that had been floated as weather balloons to the various baseball insiders, the elite baseball insiders who've been given these various plans. And it turns out that it's not going to be exactly any of them. They are going to have regional baseball, but they're not going to break up the National League and the American League under the proposal that I have been reading about here. They are going to have a universal designated hitter. There's some other things in the mix. The key part of this, though, is the financial. Follow the money, right? We all learned that when we were growing up. Follow the money, and it certainly applies here. And Major League Baseball, using the coronavirus pandemic as a backdrop, they have asked the union to make temporary changes to the very economic foundation of Major League Baseball. And this has gone over about as well as you would expect, right? Yeah, it's not good at all. They would like to base the salaries only for this season upon a percentage of revenues generated by the sport. Obviously, revenues are going to be down. It is a sport that works in advertising. We work in advertising here in radio. The advertising market is not very good. People aren't advertising much these days. It will pick up, and it will pick up wonderfully, but it's not going to pick up anytime soon. So this would be an economic system. I'm going to walk you. This is a lot of boring stuff here, but I'm going to try to make this as exciting as possible. Just bear with me. So the economic system that baseball is trying to put forward here, where players would get compensation from essentially a 50% share of the revenue of the sport, whatever money generated by Major League Baseball, whatever money is generated, and they're talking about playing games in big league stadiums so they can get that advertising, in-stadium advertising that shows up on the TV and all that. So the union responded here, and they took a cartoon anvil and tried to drop it on top of Rob Manfred's head. I don't know if you heard Tony Clark's statement or not. Maybe you missed it. But the story came out early in the day on Monday, and then by Monday evening, there was a quote from the executive director of the Players Union, Tony Clark, who said, quote, "A system that restricts player pay based on revenues is a salary cap, period," close quote. Now, Clark also claimed that Major League Baseball is trying to take advantage, that's his words, take advantage of the global health crisis to get what they failed to achieve in the past, the opportunistic, evil baseball owners. Now, the league obviously disagrees with this, and so you have a war of words. You have a he said situation, which is perfect for this platform of sports talk radio. You have the union, who says baseball's ownership is being unrealistic. You have the owners that say, hey, we've got a pandemic. We only have, so much money coming in, so we've got to change the finances until the pandemic ends. So pick sides. We all like picking sides, right? Republicans, Democrats, whatever. Pick sides on this. Are the players right, or are you on the side of Major League Baseball? I'm actually on the side of Major League Baseball on this one. And I've got Floyd Mayweather, the poison pill, and the Grand Canyon, and we will tie all these things together. Now, the Players Union, let's start with the Players Union. Clearly, they appear to be not fully aware of the surrounding environment that we're all living in right now. This response shows you, and Tony Clark has to own this, how out of touch the players of Major League Baseball are. We are talking about the blind leading the blind, if this is their response here. Now, typically, I try to find a way to side with the players. I'd rather side with labor than the boss. I'm not a boss. I'm an employee for a company, just like chances are you are an employee for a company. So I try to side with the employee. But in this particular case, looking at the facts that have been presented, I understand totally the players trying to get as much money as they can possibly get. I'm not fighting them on that. It's the words that were used in the strategy here which seems fugazi to me. There are millions of Americans who have taken the forced haircut. I am one of them. Eddie's on that list as well. It's like Floyd Mayweather at the club, making it rain. Pay cuts, furloughs, pink slips. I think every week, literally every week since this pandemic started, I have heard from a big fan of the show that lost their job or has been furloughed and not making money right now. And that's pretty much 2020 in a nutshell. And yet Tony Clark has the chutzpah to spit a loogie over sharing revenues for one season. Boo-hoo-hoo for the players' union. How are they going to go on with their lives? Now, listen, part B of this. I think we're at a point now where I don't like what's going on. I don't think anybody likes what's going on. But everyone's in a position now, based on the cards that we've been dealt, to have to sacrifice a little bit. The union, if this is their position, if they are unwilling to change their position, you talk about an uphill battle. This is like trying to climb Mount Rainier and not have any climbing equipment. Good luck. Now, we're all making adjustments. Even the spoiled ball players are going to have to make adjustments. And it's not easy. It's not great. You don't like it. But the Major League Baseball league as a whole, baseball league as a whole, they told The Athletic, of course, some undisclosed individual told The Athletic, that we're not trying to regulate payrolls. We're not trying to set a precedent. None of the above. Now, of course, the people that run baseball are going to say that even when they actually have ulterior motives. I understand that people are not always honest, and oftentimes in business they are not. But you have these things called contracts that you can sign and make sure legally that the baseball union gets what they want in terms of agreement, that this is only a one-year situation. That's it. Now, they claimed repeatedly, baseball, that this is a temporary situation. That's the words that they used. The players are acting like it is a permanent change. It is a sea change to the very foundation of baseball. And when you look at this and juxtapose the both sides of it, it's humiliating. It is that's the word, humiliating for the players in baseball. They seem like a bunch of coddled clowns in this, and they aren't going to get any public sympathy and very little public backing if this continues to be the position. No matter what the 2020 season looks like, the revenues are not going to be normal. They're going to be abnormal. The fact that this is a non-starter screams of, hey, we got greed in play here. And I get people are greedy. That's by human nature. People are greedy. But this is not a time for this particular position. This is not a hill to die on. If you're the union, it's a one-year exemption under unique circumstances with no fans. It is not unreasonable. It does not sound unreasonable at all. Keep in mind that Major League Baseball, they have in their back pocket, not pine tar, not chewing tobacco. They have a poison pill. So baseball's got all the leverage. You always look to see who has the leverage in a deal. And Major League Baseball's owners have the ultimate leverage. They can travel to France and stick it to the players, that famous French term, the force majeure. Now, what does that mean? That term, we've used it a few times. It is a clause that is very common in every contract. It's in my contract. It's in every contract I've ever seen, that essentially frees both parties from any liability or obligation when an extraordinary event or circumstance beyond the control of said parties, such as a war, a strike, a riot, a crime, a coronavirus pandemic, etc. In legalese, it is known as an act of God, is what it's known for. The unforeseeable circumstance. This would certainly apply. Nobody back in January or December or November of last year was like, hey, can't wait for 2020 so you can all stay at your house all the time and not go out. When you go out, you have to wear a mask. And if you don't wear a mask, people give you weird looks and think you got cooties and all that. Nobody predicted this. Nobody predicted this in the months prior. And so this is an unforeseeable circumstance. And so if baseball chooses to do this, what does it mean in layman's terms? It means that those guaranteed contracts, that big, massive contract Mike Trout signed, suddenly it's not worthless, but if the force majeure clause is activated, it does not get paid out. And that would last until baseball returns. So it's very simple here. This is a game of chess. And if Major League Baseball players want to get some money here, they got to play. Otherwise, baseball owners, if the players put up a fight here, can say, okay, we're going to activate this and nobody's getting paid. Nobody. See ya in 2021. All right, now the last word here. The confidants of the players, the people around the players of baseball say they already agreed to a revenue split. Their argument is this has already been decided, that baseball is trying to reinvent an agreement that was already agreed upon. Well, it turns out that that is disingenuous. It's not totally true. The agreement was reached in principle between the baseball officials and the players' union. That happened back in March. It's clearly bad planning by both sides here because they think they had it all figured out right when this happened. And obviously it has changed. The story has evolved since March. But the agreement between the union and the players, as I read it with my amateur legal training from years behind the microphones here at Fox Sports Radio, the provision in the contract, they outlined what a pay agreement would be, a prorated salary based on the number of games played. It looks like there are going to be 82 games played in the 2020 baseball regular season with an expanded postseason. However, the document, here's the key part of this. The document also provided for the possibility of a discussion about the economic feasibility of starting games where there are no fans. Giving the owners, you know what that gives the owners? The Grand Canyon-sized loophole is what that gives the owners. That's the technicality that gives the owners the right to revise the economics. And the players' union doesn't have to like it, but that's right there. It says it right in the contract that's available on the internet. You can check it out. And now the one thing I will stand with the players on regarding this particular issue, if the owners are going to be hell-bent on saying this is the way it's got to be, okay, I feel I'm on their side. I feel you. But here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to do something that you have been fundamentally opposed to doing all of this time. All right, you've been very cautious. You've been very vigilant not to open up the books. Well, if you're going to say, here's how much revenue we made and here's how much revenue you get, you have to be honest. You have to share the financials of Major League Baseball. Otherwise, there's nothing. Now, it doesn't mean that the owners still can't activate the force majeure clause in the contract and then it goes away and all that. But let the union see how much revenue there is, right? And then it can't remain hidden. I remember a couple years ago, then Deadspin, the original Deadspin, got the documents of the Miami Marlins, then the Florida Marlins, and they were claiming poverty, and they were making tons of money, it turns out, but they were telling the politicians in Miami that they were losing all this money and they needed a new stadium, and of course, the politicians then bent over and said, whatever you want, here you go. But we are told that roughly 40% of the overall revenue for baseball is gate or gate related. That means the attendance. And 51% of all local revenue is based on actual attendance in the ballpark. So you can sell the overpriced hot dogs, nachos, Cracker Jacks, and all the other souvenirs that they jack up the price on. And these things go from team to team. So it's different for team to team, obviously. So, for example, that would mean the Dodgers would be drowning because they lead baseball in attendance, and a team like the Marlins or the Rays, not so much because the attendance has usually been pretty bad over the years, so it's not as dependent on that.